Ever get that feeling, like that little rush when you're about to buy some new tech? Like you're about to click buy on a new laptop or phone.
Oh, yeah,
It's like a little tech treasure hunt.
definitely.
But what if I told you that there are these hidden forces that are influencing those prices?
Okay.
Things like global events and political decisions.
Hmm.
Today, we're going to take a deep dive into that world because this new article from Tom's Hardware has us thinking,
Yeah.
could our favorite gadgets be about to get way more expensive?
Interesting.
So to help us untangle all of this, let's bring in our expert.
Hey, everyone.
Before we get into the weeds of microchips and motherboards,
Right.
can you give us a quick refresher on tariffs?
Sure.
What are they and why should we care?
Yeah. So, you can think of tariffs as kind of like border control for goods,
Okay.
except instead of passports, we're talking taxes.
Right.
So
Yeah.
essentially, they're fees on products coming from other countries.
Mm.
And while, importers, they officially pay the bill,
Right.
those costs often get passed down to us, the consumers, as higher prices.
Okay, so tariffs equal potentially higher prices.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, let's talk about what this Tom's Hardware article is all about.
Okay.
Because things are about to get interesting.
Right.
So the article digs into Donald Trump's latest campaign promise.
Okay.
And it's a big one.
I
He's
love it.
proposing a big tariff hike if he wins the 2024 election.
Wow. Okay.
We're talking 10 to 20% on goods from every country.
Hmm.
But here's the kicker. An additional 60% on top of that for anything coming out of China.
Wow.
60%.
That's huge.
Huge.
Yeah, that two-tiered approach is really something we don't see very often.
Right.
If that actually happened, it could really change things when it comes to U.S. trade strategy.
So let's get down to the numbers then.
Okay.
Because the Consumer Technology Association, or CTA,
Right.
they got with some analysts and crunched the numbers on what this could mean for shoppers.
Okay.
And honestly, the results are pretty shocking. They're saying that the average laptop price could jump by 45%.
Wow.
An extra $357 on that price tag.
Yeah, and it's important to remember we're talking about the average price here.
Right.
Those expensive laptops,
Mm-hmm.
the ones that are already around $1,000 or more,
Mm-hmm.
we could see prices go up by like $450 or even more.
So yeah, that dream machine you're looking at
Right.
might stay a dream for a bit longer.
Exactly.
And it's not just laptops.
Right.
Smartphones are projected to go up by almost 26%.
Wow.
And get this, gaming consoles could see prices jump by almost 40%.
Ouch.
I know, right? Ouch.
Yeah.
So what is going on here?
Right.
What's the reason for these crazy price surges?
Right.
Well, the article talks about this idea of substantial transformation as a major factor.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds kind of complicated,
Yeah.
but it's really not.
Okay.
Imagine baking cookies.
Okay.
Your flour might be from one country, your sugar's from another.
Mm-hmm.
Those chocolate chips, who knows where those came from? But where the cookie is actually from, like what determines where it's from for the tariff,
Right.
that depends on where it was baked,
Okay.
where it takes its final form.
It's not just about where the pieces come from.
Right.
It's about where they all come together.
Yes.
Where the final product is actually made.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even if companies said, okay, we're not going to deal with this 60% China tariff,
Right.
and they tried to move production somewhere else,
Right.
it's not that easy.
It's not like flipping a switch.
Exactly. You can't just pick up a factory and move it overnight.
Exactly.
The article mentions Foxconn.
Right.
They're already expanding in places like Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And Malaysia's becoming a big player in semiconductors.
Right.
But these things take time.
Yeah.
Building factories, training workers, setting up these crazy supply chains.
It's a process.
It's a whole process.
Definitely. It's a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone's trying to figure out where to make stuff.
Right, like a big game of musical chairs. So it seems like we're kind of stuck then.
Well,
Higher prices for our electronics,
Mm.
or this scramble to move production that could take years.
yeah.
But is it all bad?
Hmm.
I mean, there's got to be some upside to these tariffs, right?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like most things in economics and trade,
Right.
the answer is complicated.
Okay.
It's not a simple yes or no.
Let's unpack that then.
Okay.
Because the article does a good job of showing both sides of this whole tariff debate.
It does.
So we're not just getting one side of the story.
Exactly.
So on the one hand, we have groups like the Tax Foundation,
Right.
which if you don't know is like a think tank that focuses on tax policy.
Mm-hmm.
And they are not fans of these tariffs.
They're not. No.
they're saying that these tariffs will just lead to higher prices for everyone.
Which, yeah, I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer.
Right, exactly.
They're saying it's not just bad for shoppers either.
Right.
It's bad for the whole economy. It could slow things down, even lead to job losses.
See, that's what I don't get.
Yeah, it is kind of counterintuitive.
It feels counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
Because then you have the people who support the tariffs.
Right.
What are they saying?
So groups like the Coalition for a Prosperous America,
Okay.
the CPA, they see this whole thing as a win for the U.S. economy.
Okay.
They're saying that by making those imported goods more expensive,
Right.
it'll encourage companies to start making things here in the U.S.
Okay, so more stuff made in America.
Exactly.
Okay.
They're saying it could bring back American manufacturing, create jobs, boost the economy.
So it's like this tug of war then,
Kinda, yeah.
between like the short-term costs for shoppers like us
Right.
and these potential long-term gains for American companies.
It's a tough balance.
Yeah, for sure.
And to make it even more complicated,
Oh, there's more.
yeah, the CPA,
Mm-hmm.
they've suggested using the money made from these tariffs
Okay.
to give tax refunds,
Interesting.
especially to like low and middle income households.
So they're trying to offset the higher prices then.
Exactly.
Duh.
But even that comes with its own set of questions.
Right, like what?
Can you actually make that happen?
Right.
What would that do to the economy in the long run?
Yeah.
These are things that people are trying to figure out right now.
It's like every time we learn something new,
It gets more complicated.
it gets more complicated. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to see how this plays out in the real world.
Right.
The article talks about this company, Incinerator,
Okay.
and it shows how complicated these tariffs can be.
Yeah, it really does.
So Incinerator, they're a U.S. company.
Mhm.
They make garbage disposals,
Okay.
and those tariffs on imported steel,
Right.
which were supposed to help American companies,
Right.
actually ended up hurting them.
Wow.
Well, the tariffs made their production costs go up,
Oh, I see.
which of course hurt their profits.
Wow. So even for a company that makes stuff in America,
Right.
tariffs aren't always good for business.
Exactly. It's not as simple as it seems.
Not at all.
So it's not as simple as it seems.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing kind of hinges on Trump even winning again, right?
Right.
But even then, like, can he just walk in and make these tariffs happen?
well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
The president actually has a lot of power when it comes to tariffs.
Really?
Yeah, more than you might think.
So it's not like he needs to get Congress to agree or anything.
Not really.
Yeah.
There are actually these things called Sections 301 and 232.
Okay.
They're part of U.S. trade law,
Mm-hmm.
and they basically let the president put tariffs in place,
Wow.
usually for things like national security or unfair trade practices.
So even if someone else wins,
Right.
it seems like tariffs are here to stay.
It's definitely a tool that presidents use. Yeah.
But what about everyone else?
What do you mean?
Like some of the experts we talked about,
Right.
even some people in Trump's own party,
Yeah.
they're not really on board with these tariffs.
Well, you're right. It's complicated because even within the same political party,
Right.
people have different ideas about trade and how to protect American businesses.
So it's like this balancing act,
Exactly.
trying to protect businesses here in the U.S.,
Mhm.
but also realizing that everything's so connected globally.
Exactly.
It's a tough one.
It really is.
Yeah.
So for our listeners out there,
Yeah.
the ones thinking about getting a new phone
Mhm.
or finally upgrading that laptop,
Mm-hmm.
what's the takeaway here? What should we keep in mind?
I think the most important thing to remember
Yeah.
is that the prices we see for our tech,
Right.
they're part of a much bigger picture.
Okay.
It's not just about the tech itself.
Right.
It's about global trade, political decisions, all these economic forces that shape our world.
So that new phone in the store, it's
Exactly.
like this tiny little window
Yeah.
into this huge global network.
Then it makes you wonder, right?
They
What are
won't-
we really willing to pay?
Not just the money.
Not just the money, but what are we willing to accept? That's something to think about.
It really is.
It is. It's a lot. It's a lot to consider.
Yeah. But that's the world we live in, right?
That's the world we live in.
Well, on that note,
Right.
that's going to do it for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us as always.
Thanks, everyone.